Hi friends, Dr. Ben, not a real doctor here. I'm going to talk and get a little movement session in while we go here. I'm going to be talking about tension, muscle tension specifically, and how it affects your level of tiredness, or how you feel exhausted all the time when you're tight. So first thing I'm going to do here in my movement session is I'm just going to work on a little shoulder mobility, little upper shoulder, the area across my collarbones here. It's kind of tight. Work on this range of motion in my shoulders here. Just going to lean through the doorway a little bit until I feel a stretch, and then I'm just going to hold it there for 30 to 60 seconds. Put some light pressure into the door frame here. This is a little more of an isometric than just a stretch because I am applying a little muscle contraction at the end range of motion here. But while I do this, let's talk about muscle tension, right? So muscles can contract and relax, and it works based on calcium and magnesium and signals from your nerves telling muscles to contract. The process of contracting creates waste product, it burns up resources, and relaxation, while still consuming resources to maintain the muscle mass, doesn't consume them at the rate that a contracting muscle does. So muscle contraction requires more energy than not muscle contraction. Kind of makes sense, right? It would be kind of silly if muscles required the same amount of energy to rest as they did to contract. So why does that matter? Well, most of us are walking around with a fair bit of chronic muscle tension. We're used to positions where we're holding positions for a long time. Muscles aren't contracting, so what they do is they shorten or they learn to chronically contract to hold the position. They're two different things, right? So muscles are made up of fibers that they work sort of like ratchet straps to pull closer together. Actin and myosin, I always want to say sarcomere and telomere, which is really funny because that's nervous, that's not muscle. But actin and myosin, they work to ratchet muscles together, right? And if you hold a shortened position for a long time, your body is thrifty. It's going to start eliminating some of those short actin and myosin fibers that allow muscles to contract, which means the muscle will be permanently shorter. It's one of the benefits of long duration stretching. You can add back actin and myosin. We're still stretching here in the door frame a little bit. Well, whatever, isometric / stretching. You can add back some of that actin and myosin. Katie Bowman's work focuses a lot on that. That's why she uses a lot of long duration stretching to add back some of that length to the muscles. Now, how is that different from a chronic contraction? Well, it's actually quite a bit different. I'm going to move on to the next exercise and we'll talk about that. So if your muscles are in a chronically contracted state here, we're going to do some narrow. This should be interesting, talking while doing some narrow stance split squats. If your muscles are in a chronically contracted state, even if it's a light contraction and not a massive, super tense contraction, what that means is your muscles are constantly burning up extra resources basically to maintain that state of contraction. Even if your body has gotten used to it, as you contract more and as you hold things longer, your body gets more efficient at using those resources. But the reality is you're still burning up those resources. If you're talking a little bit of muscle contraction, you'll feel the effects of that. But if you're talking a lot of systemic chronic muscle intention, if you're talking your back is really tight, your abs are really tight, your traps are really tight, you're burning up significant resources just trying to maintain your baseline level of activity because all that contraction uses resources. I also have theories, especially, in the neck region. Hi, honey, I'll let you out in a minute. Talking to the dog, not my girlfriend. That would be awkward, huh? But in the neck region, the shoulder region, there's a lot of circulation that goes on through there. So if you have chronic tension in there, and I've personally experienced this, you'll feel like there's constrictions on your blood flow. You'll start feeling either nerve tension or start lightheaded. It feels kind of a weird fluttering in the chest. And that's because these muscles are putting compressive force on arteries and blood vessels. I also have some theories that high blood pressure can be contributed to by high muscle tension. As those muscles are contracted, you have to maintain higher blood pressure to get blood into those muscles. And a big part of what draws blood into those muscles is actually contraction. When you contract the muscle tightens, it pushes things out. When it relaxes, there's a vacuum effect that sucks blood into those muscles. So the actual muscle contraction itself does a lot to bring blood in and push blood out, as well as lymph. There's no circulatory system for lymph. Only muscle contraction is what moves lymph fluid around. Now, if you have chronic muscle tension, what happens is these muscles are chronically tight. The muscle is not helping to push out or pull in, and crud kind of builds up in there. Now, it's not going to be like super dramatic, but there is some nutrient starvation, some oxygen starvation that happens in those muscles when they are chronically tight like that. So now you have sort of this systemic overload that's not flushing through, as well as a burning of resources to maintain that contraction. If you've ever seen somebody who's just gotten up out of bed, what they do is they'll kind of stand up and they'll go, That is a natural response. It's called a pandiculation. And what that is doing, it is resetting your nervous system's resting state for those muscles. Because we spend so much time, hi hon, we spend so much time inactive in the same position all the time, we do not pandiculate nearly enough anymore to accurately reset our nervous system. So that's where things like somatic exercises can really help. And I have some stuff on that on my channel. Handy, there are lots of good resources. Somatic Movement Center is the one that I've dealt with the most of. And I really like her stuff, good stuff. So if you're feeling constantly tired, having a hard time no matter what you do, you can't really feel relaxed. You know, your heart is working harder from chronic tension. You're burning resources from chronic tension. Your body is a sensory organ. Your fascia is a sensory organ. So if there's tension in your body, it's hard for your brain to stop because all that chronic tension ups your nervous system into a systemic response. So chronic muscle tension also makes it harder to relax. Good way to reset all that stuff, obviously somatic exercises, but just regular movement. Like here, I'm not working super hard. I'm working through a range of motion, working on things that are a little tight with me, things that need some attention. You know, this isn't the sort of thing that's going to cripple me for the rest of the day. But doing it regularly throughout the day helps my muscles move through a large range of motion. Here I'm, working on balance. I'm in a really narrow stance. Forces my ankle stabilizers to work, my knee stabilizers and my hip stabilizers. Adding a little complexity by talking. All of that helps really, really keep things moving in the body, keep things from getting too tight. It's one of the reasons I advocate movement sessions now rather than workout sessions. Regular movement like this helps eliminate some of that chronic tension. We're going to move on to the last exercise here. Now this one, the overhead press. This is a range of motion that I've always had problems with. And it's really the focus of what I'm doing right now. Working on retraining those traps. I have lots of overhead pulling in my background, but very little overhead pushing. Lots of reasons for that. A major one was that I was told that it was bad for me when I was a competitive swimmer. So I stayed away from it for a long time and had a lot of shoulder issues because of it. But movement like this is really, really good way to work those muscles through a range of motion, especially slow controlled movement, because there's no way to skip through the hard spots where your nervous system isn't really controlling the muscles very well. Again, movement quality is important because if you practice doing something sloppily, you'll always do it sloppily. And little sessions like this can really, really, really help to ease that tension. And it's really, a lot of it is about the actual movement itself. Like even sitting here and doing this will be beneficial. You won't get as much of a training response as adding resistance. That's why we often add resistance. But it really, really helps to reset your nervous system, get your brain, your nervous system to better control your muscles, have better, finer control. And also to, if they are chronically tense, to start to break them up a little bit, get some fresh blood in there, and help to sort of clear out all the issues that have built up with chronic tension. Especially, you know, like I've had shoulder issues my whole life. I was in physical therapy at 12, so it's just, you know, shoulder rehab is what sent me down this whole rabbit hole that I'm sharing with you guys here. But it's really important to get this sort of regular large range of motion movement in to help your body stay loose and nimble, relaxed. A relaxed body, it's very important if you want to be able to maintain a level of not tiredness, right? I would be curious to hear what you guys think, you know, my fellow chronic tension people. How do you feel when you're having a day where you're extra tight compared to a day when you're feeling really relaxed? I know for me, like the more tension I feel, the more exhausted I feel. And it's a big motivator for me to keep doing little movement sessions like this to help my body relax. I find that when I am very sedentary or I'm working very hard in very specific range of motion, I end up quite a bit more tired than when I'm doing more full range of motion stuff. And honestly, spending a lot of time in cowboy boots these days, I find that a full workday in cowboy boots is a lot more exhausting than a full workday in more minimalist shoes. And I feel like that is due to the contraction of the calf muscles, helping push things out from my lower body more in minimal shoes rather than in rigid heeled shoes. But like I was saying, I'd be very curious to see what you guys think. I love little thought experiments like this. Some of this I have definitely researched. I have actual data on it, and I've read articles and studies and books. But other stuff, you know, it's kind of piecing those various things together and drawing my own conclusions. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I know it's been a while since I put something out. Summer's a very busy time. And, you know, this sort of format is a good way for me to kind of do two things at once and still chat with you guys a little bit and put stuff out for you. So I appreciate you guys joining me on my little movement session. I hope it was helpful for you guys. I hope you get some good information. Until next time, keep your life in motion, guys. I'll see you soon.